Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out in the torch shop going to make another marble today, and I'm going to use a couple of elements, ingredients that were some sample pieces given to me by a good glass blowing friend. So let's get into our adventure today. We're going to just start in with the large rod that we construct the marble on. So this is just a rough cut in. I need to do a little cleanup on this. Hope everybody's doing well. Kind of excited to jump into this project. I did a little marble yesterday and tried out these two ingredients. So I think we're going to be safe to use these in our marble today. A lot of times through the years I get excited about some new glass and people say, oh, this is great, you can do this with it, and then I try it. I have spectacular failures and think, well, so much for that great idea. But the glass that's available to us is continuing to evolve, and there's some new companies out there that produce some interesting glass that's in high demand. So I'm going to do a compression, kind of a flower compression technique that I've done a couple of times on my videos here. But this is going to introduce some new, well, a new glass. So we'll see what we can get out of it. Industry is led by a certain degree of hype for something new and great, and sometimes the hype is not entirely warranted, and sometimes it's like, yeah, this is good stuff. But there's so many different kinds of glass that we work with, and a lot of them have their quirks or things they're good at, things they're not so good at, and it always kind of drives me nuts that manufacturers will say, well, you should anneal it at this temperature for this long or something or other. And it's like, well, you start getting picky, you got to have a different annealing cycle for each different color you're trying to combine into a marble. How are you supposed to make that work? But it's almost sort of like a security clause. If you have failure, it's not our fault. You didn't follow our directions. When I first got into using borosilicate glass, I thought the big attraction moving from using soft glass to borosilicate glass is like, well, you don't have to worry about cracking anymore. So, well, that's ridiculous. Borosilicate glass cracks too. Just sometimes a little different than soft glass in different circumstances, but it can be plenty finicky too. So, get a good size gather, then we're going to get our flat face. Just to set up for a little bit. I've got my little graphite plate here. Hopefully this will let me get after it, and I think I used the same kind of positioning before, and it worked out alright. So now we're going to just heat this front face, and do this in a few consecutive presses. Okay, then we'll just drop down vertically. I'm trying to heat mostly just the very front, that edge kind of. And kind of rotate around, trying to get to be on a perpendicular. And if it's not quite right, we can come back and try and adjust that a little bit. Okay, that's way big enough. And we've got our little florist frog here, our bed of nails. Generally, if I'm doing this without recording it, I like to have it closer to me on the bench where I can look straight down on it. But I'll try and let you guys see what I'm doing. So we need to get this front face warmed up sufficient to get an impression. Now that gave us a way bigger field of dots, so we're not going to fill in all those, we're not going to fill that all in. So this next phase, adding our dots, has to be a little bitty flame. I need some magnifiers. One kind of on top of my regular glasses. Now the first one I'm going to try and do in the center is a yellow spot. This yellow doesn't dig very much heat. Times we have to kind of try and clean off this, and we still don't quite have the right flame here. It's wanting to boil. Okay, then we're going to use Aqua. Still kind of a hot flame. And now, introducing our Electrum glass. And I have a little diagram that I drew out trying to figure out, because I'm going to do a little fancy pattern. I want to do 3 dots. 3 dots, and then we're going to skip one. And skip one again. And now we'll come in with this Aqua. And fill in these skip spots. Now from that skip spot, we're going to come out and over. In this outer ring, we're going to do 2. Okay, I just want to kind of establish the pattern here. Go back to our Electrum. And this pattern we're doing 4. Skip 2. Skip 2 again. And we're back to our Aqua, then we'll rotate around and fill in the other missing dots. Okay, I'm going to heat this all up a little as we've been cooling off. Alright, now for a little change on the fly. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'll try incorporating a little gold fume on here. We're going to use a little clear to trap some of that gold. Okay. Now, go back to getting my clip-ons on here. And we have succeeded the hard part of this marble. I hope that was the hard part. Okay, once we get those kind of melted in, we're going to do our first press on here. Now that gold fume dispersed on the whole face. I was trying to get it just around the rim, but that may add a little interest in between the halo around the backside of the dots. So this process is really about getting that rim hot, and just kind of kissing that flame across the face. We're doing heat press, heat press, heat press. So even though I don't always follow my own advice, it's best to do this in many successive stages with gentle presses. As you see that compression start to develop, you can get a sense of how symmetrical it is. This is actually looking really, really well centered. So all those dots have kind of collapsed at this point into a smaller, bright circle you see on there. That was the whole collection of dots that have shrunk down now. So the clear glass is moving around and encapsulating those dots. So one way I like to think of this is like the original dots. They're not moving. They stay put. It's the rest of the glass that moves. Now you get to some point where that area where the colored glass is, it's stiffer and reluctant to move, and so it starts being kind of this pocket. Which again is part of this process. You keep kind of trying to flatten that backside. It's going to be kind of a tiring process of keeping this rotating. It's hard for me to support my elbow when I'm trying to get a certain angle. And then trying to direct the heat more just straight up the center there. Collapse that in. Okay. Well, we've got a good part of it going. Now this is where things kind of get a little sketchy. It can make quite a difference in the way this marble will turn out. There's a couple different thoughts here as to how to proceed at this point. I tend to like to grab a hold of this glass when it's all pretty hot and kind of yank it out. But it's hard to hit this on center. Okay, so I tag down and just gently let this kind of fall and pull out a little bit. And you can start pulling a little harder. Tease off that little bit, the exposed color ends. Okay, that's a good start to our compression of all those positioned dots. And we've got our little bubble traps going on. This is another feature that I get out of using that pin cushion. Give a deep enough compression in there so you have little pinpoints that you seal over with the colored glass as you put those dots down. Now, I kind of would like to have more clear in that background. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some. So I want to be able to kind of see around this centerpiece to be kind of in the center. Give us a little space around the outside. Got a little aggressive there. Okay. Shaping. Now for some background features. My glass blower friend here gave me a piece of clear glass with opal chips in it. I'll leave a link in the description below so where you can get some of this stuff. Anybody that doesn't already know. And this is something that I've been aware of for a long time, but I've never used. So yesterday I played around with this a little bit. I'm just hoping I can see it in the background. Okay, give us some sparkle in the background. Colorful sparkle. Okay. Now, I'm going to add some silver. We're going to do that in the form of some silver filings. So, this surface good and hot. And we're going to come down here and grab some silver. Okay, move that out of the way. Now, to encapsulate some of that, I've got some Rhapsody I can use to put a wrap on that. Use some pressure to push this in. Now this process, we've got some sections trapped underneath this glass I just put down, and then the other silver that's exposed right now is getting reduced and burned in and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So we let that do its thing a little bit, but then we're going to put in our backing color. Which is today, what is this? Blue Spruce. This is a pretty dense color, so this will make a pretty opaque background. Rhapsody, it looks fairly dark, but it's a translucent color. kind of chasing around trying to fill in gaps. Again, putting kind of a lot of pressure trying to squeeze that glass into the nooks and crannies there. And there we go. Inside is all completed. Okay, we're gonna do just do some silver fume on here, I think. Then we can start filling in the backside. So I was out here working just the other day, and I was thinking, it's like, wasn't very comfortable sitting in my chair. And I got to thinking, it's like, the chair that I'm sitting in here is it's a higher office chair, so it's like they call it a drafting chair, and that allows me to have a workbench that is at the same height. If I stand up, I can still work standing up, pretty much the same as sitting down. But I've had this for 25 years or more, I'm sure. And I got off this chair and I sort of poking around on it, and it's like, it's hard as a rock. So, ordered myself an office chair cushion. So, I'm anxious to get that, see how that works out. But I thought, this is ridiculous. I shouldn't be uncomfortable sitting in my chair. So when I get that, not that I have any Amazon affiliate type sales going on, but I can at least link to what I came up with, and I'll let you know whether I like it or not. Pretty sure I'll like most anything. In the meantime, I grabbed a little scrap of, it's another random foam that I have. So I've got something on the seat now. But the height of this, type of office chair is adjustable, so that'll work out just great. It's the little things in life, you grow to appreciate. Why not have some creature comforts? Why not have a little fun in life? There's a lot of things to be distracted and get you down, but There's small things that can make a significant difference in the way your day-to-day life goes. And we're very blessed here that we, even though I still struggle with my own demons, I have the ability to step outside my door, interact with wildlife and country setting. Don't have any traffic, don't have any close neighbors making a ruckus or invading my privacy. We're quite lucky to be here. That in itself can lead you down a path of feeling bad for all the people that don't have that. But you make it however you can. I've often seen advice to, if you're just in an apartment, at least have a houseplant or two. When I was growing up, we had a tropical fish tank. And I pretty much have always had a tropical fish tank my whole life. They're pretty low maintenance. You can take off for a weekend and not worry about them. But they're like very pretty, very busy, always doing stuff. I always found them to be a great addition to my apartment or my home, wherever I was at. I wasn't necessarily all that great with basic houseplants, but I do appreciate them. Usually it was someone else's houseplants that I benefited from. But again, growing up, we had in our living room a kind of a funky coffee table thing with an open underneath and a glass top. And we had a big terrarium bowl underneath there. And I don't know what we covered it up with. Maybe just saran wrap or something. It was an enclosed little ecosystem with moss and various little plants and stuff, and that was always just fascinating to me to see all the little ecosystem doing its thing. We had that for years, and it just stayed very vibrant. Just sitting in our living room, didn't require much maintenance or sunlight or anything. Some years ago, we actually made some little holders for air plants and sold a few, and people got into air plants because you literally don't have to do anything. As long as you got a fair bit of humidity, at least once in a while. Some people would keep them in the bathroom to make sure they got enough humidity. A lot of people say, oh, you need to get a cat or a dog or something. It's like, well, if you're single, especially when you're working and you're leaving an animal at home alone all day long, I don't know if that's really ideal. I mean, I'm not criticizing anybody. That's what you got going on. That's, can work out just fine, but generally we've always had pets of one sort or another. They're great because they don't judge you. Alright, we're bulking up this backside. Over here, I think I got a coffee mug. This is our his and her dragon graphics that Ray has created. That's our logo. And I know you can't really see this in the videos, but the interior and the handle of this is a dark blue. It's kind of cool. You can specify all these different, what graphics you want, where you want them, what color you want. It's kind of neat. I still want to add a bit more. Yeah, give that arm a rest. I seem kind of an overkill here, keep heating and heating and heating, but shape is making some subtle changes here. Letting it fall back on itself a little bit, kind of collapse that back in. Get sort of a natural shrinking of that cone in the vortex. It's a little shorter now. Okay, time for some color lines. We'll start with jet black. Okay, black. Well, apparently it's a goner. Yeah, I usually check out my different cameras to make sure everybody's running and looking right before I get started, and I guess I didn't look at that one. Okay, that was really Teally, and now we've got a yellow from Greasy glass. I think this probably qualifies for one of their satin colors. So this may, at the end of the day, be just a translucent yellow. Okay, making sure all these lines are all the way melted in. I was curious why that. Sometimes these programs, you gotta restart the program or restart the computer to get things to sync up. So, I'll just roll with what we got. That camera is on a short fuse anyway, I'm going to replace it. So perhaps it heard it was going to be replaced and decided to not participate. Protest. It's a good webcam, but it's just not good for this application. Okay, and then as off in the case, just a little bit of healing. That first rake a lot of times doesn't start out dragging quite all that pretty. And that's our color. And this is a great example why I do that fuming on the background color of the cone before I start adding the clear, bulking up the backside. Is with any of these colors, if there's gaps between the colors on the backside, or if one of the colors is pretty transparent, translucent, you'll pick up that reflective fume face underneath. Now, kind of it's true of any of these marbles, but on this type with that compression feature in the center, you don't want to shove this front lens on with pressure, or you may distort that interior piece. A lot of steady rotation here. Well, may not look that steady, but continuous rotation. today. I actually have my roller set up here. So just come in here on the roller and just let that weight down on there. So the pressure I'm applying is on the left side in the feed rod. So for some applications that makes a cleaner cut. In this case I'm going to peel all this stuff away anyway, so it's not so much about being pretty. This step kind of works better if I leave those tweezers in the water. cook this in and see where we're at. If we missed anything significant, peeling that off, you'll start seeing it show up when it heats up. Everything gets glowing really bright. Looking pretty good. A little hit in the L barber to square up that boundary. All right. Okay, got our second punty on here. And work out where you can use minimal punty swaps. If you find yourself bouncing back and forth, constantly switching punties, you got your whole piece too hot. It should retain its shape, at least on about a third of it on the punty side. And if it looks a little wobbly, just bring some heat over towards your punty end until it softens up just enough to make it move. I'm using a little bit of an angle here. Trying to get that to droop down, droop backwards towards the punty. And when I've got quite a bit of heat base, I can try and spin this. The whole thing's getting hot enough, it's harder to keep that putty on center. Okay, I'm going to drop down in the marble mold. So it's in the marble mold pretty much level. And we're going to bring those shoulders together. And that little end sticking out is, of course, the bottom of our well in the Vortex. So we don't want to manipulate that any more than we have to. Okay, after we get that first sort of initial quick spin, and because this marble is just a little bit bigger than the marble mold, I can push on it a fair amount. It looks like it's sitting all the way inside there, but it's actually just hitting the edge, just the rim. And that gets quite a lot of the shaping done. So by adding that clear on the back end of the compression early on, we kind of force that central piece to sort of stand on its own and give quite a bit of room around the edges, and that allows us to see the background. I was concerned that we would have left it kind of the way it was when it started out. It would have filled up almost the whole interior, which is dramatic and is kind of a cool thing on its own, but then you don't see the background very much. So, of course, you know, by this time I can look at it and critique it and say, oh, well, I didn't have to add quite so much glass on that backside, but that's okay. So I think our overall shape is getting pretty close. We switch to the smaller marble mold because we can get a lot more spin going on, and it feels like just a ball bearing in a race. And at this phase we're cooling things off. So now when we come in to heat this back and we're going to rotate slowly, really push the heat. And we're looking to just get a fire polish. And then get out of there. This is where, in some sense, a larger marble is easier to control because it's really hard to get the whole thing heated through, at least with this size torch. You know, it kind of depends on what your torch is and how much you got it cranked up. But smaller marbles, you know, if they're just like an inch across, the whole thing heats up really fast. So it's much more difficult actually in a small marble to control the heat balance between the punty side and the side you're trying to work with. Yeah, this crushed opal is really pretty in there. I can see lots of little flashes of color. So that's pretty fun. Okay, last punchy touch. Warm up until it glows. Bring up the tip of your punchy. Set it down and kind of wiggle it around back and forth. When you're pulling out that little bits of clear, if your torch isn't a soft enough flame or you're far enough out or whatever, you'll just keep getting that little end that's going to boil. So you want to be able to keep that pretty gently. The very end looks pretty good. And it is a little flat on the very front face. So when you have a heat cycle like this, you want to, you know, I've got a goal in mind. I want it to get hot enough to move some glass around where I want it. You try and control where the heat is and how much heat you've got. Things like that. Okay, that looks like enough heat to move. Come gently in the marble mold. And bring it through its paces. And that will get that surface leveled out to the right curvature. Even though I'm using a marble mold that's half an inch smaller. Funny how that works. Okay, then I'm putting quite a bit of heat there, just trying to get things evenly heated and smoothed out. Okay, it's looking pretty awesome. Again, we're trying to get a high heat, but just in the top surface layer. And that should do it. This back lemon yellow, I'm not sure what it's going to do in the kiln. I'm trying to kind of see if it'll strike a little bit here. The whole thing's probably too hot. Most of the striking sort of colors you have to get it cool down. I don't know what the temperature would be, but quite a ways down, and then reheat it. Alright, it's looking good. Last call for coffee. Alrighty. As always, thank you so much for hanging out, watching any of these videos. I hope that was informative, or in some way a positive influence on your day's activities. Another beautiful marble into the kiln. We'll check that out tomorrow, take pictures of it, get this video processed, and we'll see you pretty soon. You'll be seeing it right now. Anywho, take care of yourself and all those around you. Be good, be kind. We will see you next time.